Okay. Would anyone else at this time like to talk to the board about this? Yes, ma'am. Just need your name and address, please.
Christy LaGrone, and I live on 69th Street, right town.
I think we're good. Thank you.
I still live on 69th Street, but I had lived there on the corner, 70th and Willow. I have a sister, and when I grew up, there was a family that had 7 kids of all different ages, from 10 down to 2. We all lived in that neighborhood. We played on 70th Terrace. We played in Willow. I mean, there is a lot of traffic that goes through there, but we all still, we played kickball in the street, things like that. I mean, again, it's usually the teenage kids that are flying up and down that street. That's something that happens on my street on 69th Street. I have kids going up and down that street at 40 miles an hour. And they're slamming on their brakes when the neighbor kids come running out. Part of that, though, is the parents that have to watch the kids. And most all of those houses, and I know 70th, and I know the house on Willow that's right behind 70th, has a very large backyard for the kids to play in. And if the toddlers are playing in the front yard, hopefully their parents are there. But honestly, most people you don't meet that many cars going down. I went down it yesterday 2 different times, never met a car. That's just yesterday and one day. Everybody goes through there. I feel like the speed limit, if it maybe was 20, 25, it would be a lot better, and 9 out of 10 people follow the laws that are put up there. Again, you still have that little percent that doesn't, but that's where they're breaking the law. And I guess if these people are having, if that gentleman's having such an issue with, I lived in that house, and I know that the yard itself never went clear to the street. There's always a little runoff from the rain that goes down and keeps it that way. And people, yes, they do probably go a little bit on the side, but most people don't. And I just feel like if it was 2-way with the yield signs, the majority of the people are going to follow that and not have an issue. And for the people that do still continue to have the issue, they do have the opportunity to file complaints. If they're out there and they see the people and actually speak to them driving up and down their yards, they have an opportunity then to take their license plate and to turn them in. So I feel like they have a responsibility, to help with, if they're having that problem, to help, turn in those people that are constantly disobeying it. If he says that they see so many people going up and down it that are disobeying it, is there a reason that nobody's been, any complaints have been filed? So that's my only thing, is I just feel it needs to be 2-way with the signs at the end of the street. And I do agree that on 71st and Willow, where that creek is, no matter what the street determines to do, you can't, when you come down that hill, you really cannot, you can't even see the 1-way sign, because the brush does come out so far in the street until you're right up on it. So I think that something probably needs, that needs to be kept up as well. So.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else?
Mayor, I'd like to clarify something you just said, and I don't think you got it straightened out.
Mr. Ball, I'm going to ask you to come to the podium, but I don't want to set a precedent that we're going to get everybody else back up here for a second time.
Okay. Mr. Garrison talked. He bought the house from me that I lived in for 30 years. He owns the house. He now lives in Raymore. He lived there about a year and moved. And like my daughter said, the houses all have fenced-in yards for the kids to play in the back, if they're playing in the front. The signs, the city works put several signs on the utility poles, and I guess some of the people's been saying, we can't put any other signs on the utility poles? They put the 1-way signs. And the signs are so high that most people in a smaller car, had people talk to them about it. I didn't see the sign. It's way up there. We're down here. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Hopefully everybody's had a chance. One more time. Anybody else? Okay. Mr. Knoll, a couple of questions that I know are going to come up. One, we didn't do this in a vacuum. I'm very hopeful there was a reason this was done. We have a number of citizens who've taken a lot of time out of their schedules to come and speak to us tonight. It's clearly an item that this board's going to want to deal with. Would you help us with a little background, sir, on how we got to this situation? Tell us also about the general practice of notification, please, those two items.
We started out with a concern from resident about the width of the roadway came about just a little bit after, towards the end of winter time. Went out and inspected the area, determined how the width of the roadway, about 11.5 feet wide. Then we wanted to start off with a questionnaire to the residents that lived on Willow Avenue. We didn't anticipate this much traffic heading south on Willow Avenue, utilizing it as two-way traffic as a shortcut around Raytown Road. So we notified just the people on Willow Avenue that would be directly impacted by that. We got some of those returned, some phone calls returned. For the most part, it was they didn't care, or if it was a two-way or it was split in terms of direction north or south. We then took that information to the municipal committee, had a meeting at the municipal committee where we discussed the merits of the one-way street, mainly due to the width of the roadway and the damage that is done to the yards in the area, and then went to the board for 2 readings when it was implemented as a ordinance for a one-way street. Notification was mainly just to those residents along that roadway because we didn't anticipate this amount of traffic using Willow Avenue as a cut through to the south in that area. And then also, I do want to, there were 2 other people that were for a two-way section that live on Willow, and there were 4 people that wanted 3 additional people in addition to Tom Garrison that live on Willow that want to keep it a one-way street. And then we had 1 person that would prefer two-way but was willing to accept one-way south. So those are people that phoned in or sent a letter that were not able to attend tonight.
Okay. I'm going to open it up to board discussion, questions for staff or discussion amongst the board at this time. Mr. Azier, anything else to?
I think there's probably a number of things that really bother me. One is that that street has easement of 16.5 feet, and we chose to make it 9, and later expanded it to 11, apparently. I have to accept as somewhat correct that it's been about 17 years since it's been paved. And during that time, the city never thought that it needed to be paved or anything needed to be done to it. Since I've been on the board, I've had a lot of people make requests. They talk about, we need more street lights. We need more restaurants. We need to develop downtown. We spend a lot of dollars just beautifying corners. And they are very beautiful. And I think we're proud of them. These people never complained. They never complained about anything. They just liked their neighborhood. They chose Raytown. They bought a house in that neighborhood. And they didn't complain. They didn't ask us for anything. Until all of a sudden, we decided, when we didn't pave it this year, and this is after we passed the transportation tax a couple of years ago, that we weren't going to widen it, and we weren't going to let them drive two-way anymore because it didn't meet specs. I think that bothers me. I think from the standpoint that they're not asking for a whole lot. I think, yes, I do believe we do need standards. But truthfully, there are a lot of places in Raytown that don't meet standards compared to other communities. If indeed we had traffic accidents, a record of them, I don't think we'd have a choice. But we don't have that record. What we are seeing is that there are some people who, well, first of all, we made it one way, which would lead me to believe that would increase the speed of traffic because people think, well, it's one way, you go as fast as you want, no one's going to be there. So that's not safety right there. Secondly, there's some people who are disregarding the one-way sign. They're still driving 2 ways. So we really haven't solved the problem, make it safer. We've really made it less safe. I clearly see that we have, and I've had a number of calls from people who are not here tonight. They indicated to me that they couldn't come. It's not just a handful of people, it's a lot of people. And because I've walked that neighborhood so many times, I'm very familiar with it. Literally, you have 3 large neighborhoods that are connected by 2 different streets. They give them access up and down all the time, and that's why there's so much traffic. And I think from the very fact that it's being used that much indicates that that street does need to be widened. So, you know, I totally concur with what they're asking for. 2-way street, 20-mile-an-hour speed limit with a 1-way yield sign. And during this period of budgeting, we currently are in a period of making our budget for next year, should consider the possibility of widening it, at least up to what was granted to us by the county when that street was put in the record books at 16.5 feet. Thank you.
What were those numbers again on the people that lived on Willow? Can you repeat those?
There were 3 people that live on Willow that wanted to keep it a 1-way street. There were 2 people on Willow that wanted it 2-way street, and then there was a person who did not live on Willow that preferred 2-way, but if they had to have 1-way, they'd prefer it to be south.
Okay. I only asked because I forgot the numbers now to make a point, but what I wanted to say though is that, I mean, we hear what people are wanting that have showed up today, and we've had phone calls and everything. What I would like to do, and I don't know how the board feels so far, but maybe reverse this, since we weren't aware of the traffic that was coming or going south. Reverse it to a 2-way and then revisit this in a committee and find out maybe what the best approach is going forward. But this might give us the opportunity to take a step back, look at this traffic going south, and maybe make a better, more educational decision. But that would be my suggestion.